And now, the DPPRally Talk Show with Claudia on the Call 360 Network. And here's your host, Claudia Morandi.
Good evening, everybody. This is Claudia Morandi, and welcome to the DPPRally Talk Show with Claudia. So, we have with us tonight Dr. Feldman, and I'm going to bring him in a few minutes. I just want to explain to the new viewers, listeners on YouTube, what we represent. So, a few years ago, I decided we needed to organize, or I needed to organize a national protest to bring awareness to the plight of the pain patient. I started with 5 members. There's thousands across the country, and we have a chapter in Australia, and we have a chapter in Canada. We protest again on October 16. Some people protest October 17, 18, but right around the week of October 16 is when we get out there, and it's your chance, our chance to be seen, to be heard. Get in front of the media, share your stories. Now, let's say you go to the website and there's no rally planned. It's still early in the protest world. All you have to do is find a venue, get some signs, and contact the media. And we have a press release for you. We have sign ideas. We have 46 rallies organized. This started with an idea. It's now a movement. This is your time. This is our time to support one another, to empower one another. Change is happening.
Arrive at your intermediate destination on the right-hand side after a quarter of a mile.
Unfortunately, that's Dr. Feldman. He needs to turn off his GPS. Unfortunately, things are happening at a glacial pace, but they're happening. So I'm going to bring on Dr. Feldman, but if you have any questions for me, you folks email me, cmorandi1@cox.net. We are here for you. We're working day and night. Some advocates believe in protesting, others don't. Some work on legislation only. We like to organize protests to bring awareness. Everything starts with a good protest. Dr. Feldman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Claudia.
If you'd be so kind, you'd have to lower your GPS because I can...
I hear you.
Okay.
I'm here. I turned it off.
Okay, so we are pre-recording, but we will be taking callers in as they call. So, Dr. Feldman, let's start with the Joel Smithers verdict, because we saw on social media a lot of backlash towards the doctor. Just things like, well, this doctor prescribed so many pills, he deserves to be in prison. So why don't you break down how the DEA came up with these crazy, like the number of pills, and break it down for the listeners so we can at least defend Dr. Smithers to the best of our ability. Let me just say one other thing. I don't know Smithers' case. I've not seen the transcript, but I believe everybody deserves due process, and I don't believe Dr. Smithers received a fair trial. So what's your take on the verdict?
Well, first of all, let me say this. You know, my brother, who's a retired lawyer, said to me one time in his inimitable style, and forgive me for being blunt, but he said, and my wife tells me I shouldn't curse, so I won't, but he said, be careful of believing your own BS. And what he meant by that is, you know, you and I and the many patients that we have in our group and the extended family, so we have millions of people with similar conditions, but we see things through our own eyes. So remember that the Department of Justice and the DEA and the jury obviously saw things a little differently. In not only Dr. Smithers' case, but many cases. But let me So in other words, there's different versions of the same story. But let me tell you the real story, the way I see it from the medical point of view. And so we are patients and doctors, right? We are not law enforcement agents. And unfortunately, what's happened is law enforcement has encroached upon the practice of medicine. And that is nothing new. That actually started, I believe, in the United States of America with the Harrison Narcotics Act, which was like 1913. But let me just tell you this. Okay, we'll talk about 500,000 pills, because I see that number.
Right.
Number.
Well, let's start there. So he was accused of 500,000 doses in 2 years.
Okay. So let's just, I did pretty well in math, but this is not complicated. This is not complicated mathematics. Okay. So let's say that you are a doctor and you're prescribing pain medication for, let's say, a cancer patient with spread of their cancer to the bone. Now, nobody, not even a poorly educated person, would say that we should withhold pain medication from that sort of patient, correct? Cancer spread to your bone. It's terrible. It's painful. Your life expectancy is measured in months or a few years, not decades. And so we want to do everything we can to make that patient comfortable. Nobody, even the DEA, would not argue with that premise. So, all right, so we're going to say to this patient, okay, Mrs. Jones, fictitious patient Jones, what I'm going to start you on is I'm going to give you a long-acting morphine, MS Contin, 20 milligrams twice a day. That's 2 pills a day. And I'm going to give you a 5 milligram oxycodone, which is a low dose, 1 every 4 to 6 hours for breakthrough pain. That's a pretty standard regimen, and that is directly out of the FDA-approved published package insert. So the idea is that you give a long-acting pain medicine at a low dose to get a baseline pain medication, so the pain does not, between doses does not go to 10 and vacillate between 0 and 10. We want an average low dose, low pain score. So that's 2 pills a day for the morphine and up to 6 pills a day for the other. That's 8 pills a day. Now, that's a standard low-dose regimen. So 8 pills a day times 30 days a month, approximately, is 8 times 30 is 240 pills. We'll just round it off. 250 pills a month times 12. 10 months is 2,500. So another 2 months is 3,000 pills a year, right?
Sure, so that's just one patient. Now, that's just one patient.
So one patient, 2 years, 6,000 pills, one patient divided into 500,000. So we're only talking about 100 patients, right?
Sure.
Now, any doctor that only has 100 patients in his or her practice is going to be financially out of business in 1 year or less. Right? So it is mathematically and financially impossible for a doctor to only treat 100 patients. So what I'm telling you is that figure is just absolutely ludicrous. It's Disneyland. It's fantasy. No doctor can keep a practice running with 100 patients. And so what the general public has to understand is that figure is absolutely not livable in the real world. So it's a lie. It's a lie.
And Mark Ibsen eloquently and easily broke it down. Dr. Smithers accused of 500,000 doses in 2 years. How awful, he says, right? Simple math. 250,000 doses in a year. He followed 150 patients. That would be 1,666 doses per year per patient, or 139 doses per month, or 4.6 doses per day. Most patients he encounters are on several drugs. We don't know at all what is measured in this 500,000 dose number, do we? So this Poor Smithers, sent for 40 years. The media lynched him in their own way because the media doesn't do any research. The media just feeds off of what another journalist has done. And nobody sat down with, the media didn't sit down with 5 other pain management doctors and break it down, but didn't Dr. Smithers inherit, he inherited patients from another doctor?
Well, let me go back 25 or 30 years. I sat in front of the Mississippi Medical Board in the 1980s when pain management wasn't really even a specialty. But I was one of the first because I just realized that my skills were honed for anesthesiology, nerve blocks, spinal intervention, and I was getting more and more referrals. So the Mississippi Medical Board and I had some substantive discussions, which started out. Remember, this is before prescription databases and things like that. And they used to go to pharmacies and just look at prescriptions and see who was writing prescriptions. So they called me up there, and I was in Jackson, Mississippi, in front of the same lawyer that's running the medical board right now, a guy named Stan Ingram, who's been there for way too long. And I remember him saying to me, it's like, we, meaning the medical board, we want doctors like you, meaning anesthesiologists, to be treating these chronic pain patients. We don't want family practitioners doing it, right? And I said to them, well, I appreciate that, but what you don't understand is 25 years from now, I guess I was clairvoyant, when all these patients have been channeled to pain specialists, you're not going to be happy with that either. Because it will appear as if those doctors were writing a lot of prescriptions because you've basically eliminated the vast majority of doctors. He goes, well, no, that's not true. Well, isn't that what's come to pass? And so, in other words, all of these patients, family doctors have been convinced either by just the way things happened or by the media that we don't want to treat pain patients. So pain specialists only treat them. So as those patients go to pain specialists, those pain specialists' prescribing patterns show an increase in prescribing naturally, and that's the only, that's just simple math. If you're seeing 100 patients and all of a sudden you have 200 patients because another doctor quit prescribing for whatever reason, your practice is going to grow. And so now they're using the prescription monitoring database, which was only enacted to help physicians, but now they're using it as a trolling tool, and they've weaponized it, and I think that's a good word. They've weaponized it in the case of Smithers and every other doctor into anybody that's over a certain threshold. Remember, the Justice Department enacted special task forces within their districts to count prescriptions, and so that's what we are visualizing right now, the counting of prescriptions. And so those doctors are just called evil simply because of the numbers of prescriptions they write.
Is it against the law for a doctor to accept cash?
Well, let me explain that one to you. Obviously, the answer is no. So, in Louisiana, the state, enacted this rule some years ago. We're not paying for chronic pain management for Medicaid patients. Okay, so let me explain to you what that really means in English. It means that black people, which are primarily the Medicaid recipients, get excluded from needed care because some morons in the Medicaid department decide they need to cut the budget. So if a patient came to me with Medicaid, they didn't pay for anything, nothing. So I would say to them, look, the normal Medicaid visit is $30, $32. My normal visit was $200. I said, pay me the $32. Now, did I have a sign, I only accept cash? No. But the realities of it is that a patient has a right. This is my firm belief, and I don't think anybody on a jury, but see, they never get to hear this. No patient should be denied care if they want care. That's my simple feeling and my simple philosophy of health care. And so whether it's cash, whether it's insurance, whether it's Blue Cross, a patient is deserving of care if they need it. And so I'm going to tell you right now that the insurance industry has become so onerous and so difficult to navigate, many doctors just say, I need to spend my time with patients. I cannot spend all of my time dealing with large, ineffective bureaucracies. And so the answer to your question is, not only is it not illegal, the government, when you see, and insurance companies too, they make you pledge to try to collect the 20% deductible copay and the yearly deductible. And if you don't, as a doctor, try to collect that payment, they consider that in Medicare, it's a felony to not try to collect your 20% copay, meaning cash, from those patients. So again, you have the Justice Department that doesn't know the rules, the Medicare rules, or more likely they know the rules and they just hide them from the jury. And so the answer to your question is, to accept cash is not the same as a drug dealer, meeting you in an alley in the middle of the night. You make a compact with the patient and you say, listen, I don't accept your insurance. And the patient certainly has a choice to say, well,
I'm going to break in.
Thank you, doctor.
Let me break in here because I don't have dental insurance. And so I pay my dentist cash, and the world knows that I love my Botox. I pay my plastic surgeon cash. My dog doesn't have insurance. I pay my veterinarian cash. Why can't a doctor accept cash? Wait a minute. Well, here's another thing. I was self-employed for 25 years. My health care was $1,200 a month. What about self-employed people that don't have insurance? There's a lot of people that don't have insurance. There's nothing wrong with going in and writing a check. But the thing that the people don't know, and the thing that the media put out there, is Smithers met people at midnight and, accepted cash. We've got some callers. Let's take our first caller. Hi, caller. I'll take any caller, Brian. Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, Jesse.
Hey, I've got a question for you regarding the rally. Where are we also back Doctors of Courage? Linda's got a pamphlet. I was wanting to know, is that okay to hand out at our rally?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to introduce you, Jesse, because you have been with us since day one. You have a lot of health challenges, and you're always at the rally. So I want to ask you a few questions, Jesse. You can pass out whatever you need to pass out. We support Linda Cheek, Doctors of Courage. Jesse, when you're done protesting, how do you feel?
I feel great, and then I'm normally feeling rough pain-wise, like I don't feel like doing nothing the rest of the day, worn out, and pretty much I'm in that recliner, and it takes me a day or two to get over it.
And Jesse, you suffer with CRPS, correct?
Yes.
And your pain is pretty high, and you still. How do you manage to get out to these rallies? And you do such a beautiful job organizing them. How do you do it, Jesse? What's your, I'm not supposed to say this talk show, by the way. What are your suggestions? How do you get people motivated to attend a rally?
I've had help this rally because I've been battling a sinus infection recently. Just finished up course 2 of antibiotics, and I sent a letter to my editor, and I get it out there on the Michigan page, along with I've got what I consider friends, and they consider me family. They're like my second family. They help me promote it where I cannot get out. And something I have done is I've asked the ones that are coming to help get flyers out in their communities to try to get it out there. And I plan to send that letter to the Tri-City editor that I sent the Herald plenty of matter to get out there
Great.
to try to get more people motivated. And on
Yeah,
top
so-
of that, the last time I had a couple of media interviews that got some out there.
And Michigan has a phenomenal team. You have Carlene, you have David Israel, Jesse, you have Andrew. There's so many wonderful people. You pass out whatever you need to pass out to bring attention to the cause. Jesse, you are my hero. I thank you for calling in. We're going to sneak in the next caller. Hi, caller.
Hello, Claudia.
Okay, well,
It's
this
Bill
is
Murphy.
my hero. This is my hero right here. So, Dr. Feldman, I want to introduce you to, and the show tonight is a little unorthodox. So, Dr. Feldman, this is Bill Murphy, and I'm not sure if you two have ever had a chance to speak on the phone. So, Bill, my first question for you is, how did you learn about the Don't Punish Pain Rally organization?
Geez, that's a good question. You're testing my memory here. You know what? I honestly don't recall.
Neither do I.
I had been, it's a while. It goes back to preparing for the September 18th rally. So, which doesn't seem like all that long ago, but it with all the work that's gone on in between then and now, it was quite a while ago. But prior to that, I had been involved, to some extent in New Hampshire in advocating for patients, not to the extent that you did at the time, or still do, or even to the extent that I do now. So I must have tripped across Don't Punish Pain somewhere, and I think you and I were on the phone talking within a couple of days.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Yeah,
because we've only had social media to spread the word. So, Bill, when we first met, I knew right away. I think you'll remember me telling you this. I would say, Bill, you're an asset. You're an asset because you got right in there, and you became intimately familiar with New Hampshire. And I know there were days where you would say, "I can't do this anymore. I can't do it." And I said, "Okay, take some time, Bill, because you're sick. We're sick people, and when we have to take a step back, we take a step back." But now you work on, you have a radio show that you're doing on Monday. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing in New Hampshire, and tell us about the radio show so people can tune in.
Okay. So yeah, you're right. I mean, early on, I thought being involved in this and being involved in advocating on a social media level was about giving it 100% all of the time. And, you quickly learn that you burn out if you do that, emotionally, everything. And so your advice to me was great at the time. Even in my late age, you can always learn. And you advised me well to, take a break, get off, just turn off social media, get away for a couple of days. So I've been doing that. I've made that a practice in all of my workings here. But in New Hampshire, so we were involved, Amy Slater and I were the co-state organizers for the September 18th rally, September 2018 rally. And her and I have worked together on rallies since. I ended up bowing out of, I think, the third rally we had up here. And Amy and Jen Fox then worked together to pull those in this upcoming one in October together. It was through Red Lawhern being on the Matt Connaughton Unleashed radio show and listening to him speak about the issues at what I consider to be a broader level, nationally. And so Matt's show is broadcast out of Manchester, New Hampshire, where I live. Even though it's broadcast nationally, it comes out of Manchester. So I reached out to him and just suggested that I would like to come on or call in and talk about the same issues, but only specific to New Hampshire at a very detailed level. And so he gladly had me, and he's been a great advocate for us since then. He's promoting the upcoming rally like crazy. And even since then, Amy Slater and I, along with a woman, Bobby Blades, who runs pain patient support groups, and then a leading pain management physician here in New Hampshire, have formed the New Hampshire Pain Collaborative. And we are now working on legislation that's going to be introduced in January by a state senator here. So we have quite a bit going on. And I'll tell you, what you just said about Jesse making it to the rallies despite his challenges, I think that's the key thing. It's always frustrated me to some extent, and I know people get upset when they hear this, and I don't mean to call anybody out, but and I do understand there are some cases where it's just not physically possible. But we need more people like Jesse who don't allow for their situations, their pain, to prevent them from getting out to the rallies. I mean, I always say all politics is local, and if we don't show on a local level that we can create numbers when we pull together these rallies, we're not going to get a lot of attention from local reps and state senators.
Sure, because they ask, where is everybody?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you wonder if it's a double-edged sword. You know, you do we've gotten the media coverage, which is great, but as state reps and state senators walk by and see, 10 of us, it's tough to make an impression upon them that way. But another thing you've always impressed upon me is even if you only get 2 or 3 people, if you have media coverage, that's gold. And so we've continued to do the rallies.
Yeah. And I get to meet you on October 16 in Boston.
For the first time.
For the first time.
It'll be momentous.
Yeah. I wish Dr. Feldman, he's still with us. If he was closer, he would be there. But it's going to, I think Boston's going to have a great rally. And for those of you that are listening to the show, if you're in Connecticut, if you're in New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, head out to Boston City Hall Plaza. We will be there 12 to 2. Faneuil Hall is right around the corner, and I can assure you, Boston will never be the same again. So, Bill, tell us about the talk show on Monday. Can people listen? What's the name of the talk show? Is it a call-in show?
Yes, so it's the Matt Connarton, Connarton, Unleashed show. It runs from 4 to 6 p.m. It's on FM, WMNH, FM 95.3, or you can watch it on Facebook Live on the Matt Connarton Unleashed page. And I'll be going on at 4:30. Matt's been promoting the rallies for a few weeks now, and I informed him recently that we have decided in New Hampshire to join the Massachusetts rally for a number of reasons, but the primary reason being that legislation that was being proposed that would force physicians to cover the hospital costs of someone who became addicted through the result or through the use of a prescription med.
Right. That's 36. I think that's House 3656. And that was sponsored by Representative Peter Capano.
Right. And I know that there's been some influence made on that since this came up a few weeks ago. But I have also been in touch with, because I was born and raised in Mass, I've been in touch with a couple of state reps I know who have told me that there are a couple of other state reps who are still looking to breathe life into that legislation, not as written, but with some changes. The theme, though, being pretty much the same. So not that it would get introduced in this session here, but there are still some out there that think it's a good idea. And so for me, for us to get down to Massachusetts and show numbers, and I'm trying to get that rep I know to be out there with us, I think I would love to get them to talk to us all about how or why that would be such a ridiculous thing to do.
It's laughable. When I see the bill, I laugh, and I've already reached out to the Senate, the chairman of the committee, And I'm confident that bill has gone to the committee to die a slow death, the bill. And usually when a bill, when my bill was held for study, that was lights out. But fortunately, my bill was brought out of committee. We never want this bill to be brought out of committee. And I think the doctors as well as the pain community has sent a stern message to Capano saying, back off. This bill is ludicrous because if nobody in Massachusetts would prescribe. So it's pretty silly, but I will be tuning in to now is Matt Connerton, is that a national syndicated program or is it?
Yes, it's broadcast nationally. Yep. He's been around for quite some time. I'm actually looking on his Facebook page now, and he has one of our flyers posted for the notifying of the National Don't Punish. Yeah, no. I posted a little clip of his show the other day on the National Don't Punish Pain show page.
I listened. And it was great.
He went on for a half an hour. I mean, the lead-in half hour to the show, just ranting about this. His mom is one who broke her back a few decades ago, and like so many of us, was on a low-dose regimen of opioid pain medication, doing fine, and she was, tapered and cut off at some point, and she's done very poorly since. And he has another very dear friend who is one that helped us get in touch with the state senator we're working with on the new legislation. She suffers from CRPS as well as other issues she's had post 2 different situations with cancer. So he's, this is really near and dear to him as an issue. So he does everything he can to promote this for us.
That's awesome. I'll have to check out his Facebook page. So, Bill, you're another hero in the community, and you are an asset. You know your state. You know your facts. And when you get burnt out, because social media is a lot, you take a step back. Because you're a family. You have other, you're a boxer, a cattleman. I don't know. You do everything. And but I look forward to meeting you. I'm so glad you're still here. And we'll see you on the 16th of October in Boston.
Yep, I'm absolutely looking forward to being there, to being in Massachusetts again, and to, hopefully getting quite a bit of media coverage and get some. We're carpooling some folks down from New Hampshire, and of course to meet the Morandi ladies, Claudia and Maria. And Mom and Dot.
And right? Mom, she'll be there.
It's going to be great. Yep, it's going to be great.
It should be good. Thanks so much for calling in, Bill. We appreciate you.
If your mom could bring like a little side dish of some of her pasta specialties or something, that would be awesome. But
anytime.
Hey, Bill, Bill, can I say something? Are you in Manchester, New Hampshire?
I am. Yes, I am, Doctor.
Well, my Uncle Sonny and my Aunt Bernice, who just passed away last year, lived in Manchester, New Hampshire for about 45 years.
Oh, my God.
You probably knew him. Al Beats and Bernie's Beats.
Oh. Wow, that's great. That's great. I'm sorry they passed. Sorry to hear that.
Well, they were great people, and I have been to Manchester, New Hampshire many years ago. Lake Winnipesaukee, is that something up there?
Yep.
Lake Winnipesaukee, near there? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I look forward to meeting you in the future. I'd love to come to the Boston rally, but Linda and I are going to be somewhere near Memphis, so we're going to go to a rally, which one of those in that part of the country. But give them hell. We need big rallies. They need to grow, and we need to keep having them because one question I have is the good Massachusetts senator that put that bill. Who was actually behind that? That's not something he would have come up with by himself. Who's behind that?
He came up with it by himself. Yeah. But listen, this is not on, and I don't want to attack any senator, but this is not uncommon for lawmakers to do this. This is just a local representative in his infinite wisdom thought it would be a super groovy thing to do to get some vote, but it's a toxic bill. And it's an insult to the taxpayers of Massachusetts. There's absolutely no, you know what, I can't even say much about it. I will say I spoke with representatives and senators in Massachusetts, and they said the bill is too vague, and it will never see the light of day, and we're going to be sure with it. Thanks so much for calling in, Bill. As a reminder, folks, the commercial is running in Indiana, in Texas, and in Rhode Island, and I just saw the commercial in Rhode Island. The commercial ran 2 days ago at 5:30 in the morning, and when I went to check social media, I noticed a pain management center filled out the questions on Facebook, and I said, I wonder why this pain management center is signing up to be a Rhode Island Rally member. But unbeknownst to me, the commercial had run super early in the morning, and in a state like mine, that commercial is so powerful because we're so small. So as a reminder, that commercial is 29 seconds. It addresses all the points, all the different ways that people with pain have been attacked. So Dr. Feldman, let's you and I talk about the conference call that you and I were on we can't divulge everything because there's lawyers involved, but let's talk about what type of lawsuit is this going to be if everything pans out?
Well, this is just preliminary, but the effect of the effects of the opiate crisis, and I put that in quotes because I don't think there is an opiate crisis. I think it's an invented crisis. But let's assume there was an opiate problem, which maybe that's not an unfair statement. But I think we have proven through many of our good members that the rate of addiction of true chronic pain patients is very low. And yet it has become clear, and I've practiced pain medicine for a long time. I never had a patient overdose on pain medicine. But it seems to me throughout the years of the late 90s and early part of this century that many parties participated in the sale and distribution of opiates, and doctors were not those people. These were pharmaceutical chains, pharmaceutical manufacturers, pharmaceutical distributors, and pharmacies. And while the water was fine, they had no problem collecting the coin of the realm in taking care of chronic pain patients. And obviously there's many millions of chronic pain patients, so these pharmacies profited by this handsomely. Now, I have no problem with a pharmacy making a profit. But all of a sudden, you have this opiate crisis that has hit our landscape in our country, and all of a sudden these pharmacies are now trying to duck for cover. And what they're doing is they're now, pharmacies are, and I'm talking about the consolidation of pharmacies. So essentially pharmacies are Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and they have treated patients, including my wife, who's a chronic pain patient, so shabbily that patients are finding it very difficult to get legitimate prescriptions filled. Well, there's a cost to this. When I say a cost, I'm not talking about money. There's a cost in health. There's a cost in increase in despair. There's a cost of suicides. And these pharmacies are now, in my opinion, being completely arbitrary and capricious regarding who can get their medications filled, when they can get them filled, and where they can get them filled. Well, I got news for you. I believe in my inborn rights as an American to have equal treatment under the law. In my opinion, equal treatment under the law means that you can't discriminate against me or anyone based on race, creed, color, or financial status. And I will extend that to say that you can't discriminate against me because of my health condition or certain diseases that I might have. And I don't think the general public understands this. And so what we're looking to do is say to the pharmacy industry, you can't discriminate against chronic pain patients, and because you have done that and are currently doing that, there's going to be a price to be paid, and that price is going to be paid in terms of tort liability, meaning you caused us so much harm that you now must compensate us, meaning say us, the millions of people that are getting disenfranchised. And when they're made to compensate people for the violation of their rights, then all of a sudden they will straighten up and do the right thing. And that is what we are going to do. And when that happens, these pharmacy companies are going to then say, yes, we are going to do what's right. And all of a sudden, the world will now be, the world in America will be faced with a choice. And the choice is, can we discriminate against people that are sick? And the answer is, no, you can't, because there's going to be a heavy price to be paid for this. And that is what the litigation is about.
That's right. And litigation like this will put the cause on the map, because now there will be a dialogue on the national news about what pain patients are enduring. And this is how we're going to make an example out of people, the same way the government has made an example out of doctors. You know, these judges are so hell-bent on, you know, we're sending a message, and we're going to make an example out of you, and you're going to prison to never see the light of day. Well, we knew this would happen. We now have lawyers who are interested, and these lawyers, along with people who have not been able to get their scripts filled, they're going to make an example out of the pharmacies. And this is how the plight of the pain patient is going to be put on the map. And I actually believe if everything comes to fruition with this suit, we are going to be able to get these doctors the legal resources they need, the appeals they need to get out of prison. So we did have a conference call. You and I had a conference call, and, you know, these attorneys, to quote, they said, Arnie, we want to move on this fast. So Dr. Feldman and I, we have been collecting stories from patients. You can email cmorandy1@cox.net. We have quite a few stories. And somebody, I'm not sure if it's myself or Dr. Feldman, somebody will be in touch with you, the listeners. I'm getting a lot of messages about that. I'm sorry, Dr. Feldman, what was your thought?
Well, I think the other thing that may come out of this, I hope it does, is in the end of the day, because I found the video, it's on YouTube, of a DEA spokesperson in Florida. This was from 2015. Somebody was complaining that they couldn't get their prescriptions filled. And you may have seen this. And the DEA spokesperson, don't remember his name, said, you know, I don't even know why you're talking to us. We don't regulate pharmacies. And what you're going to find out is that the DEA has a hand in this as well. And so part of what's going to happen in this is in the discovery process, we're going to see who is behind some of this, because they will all run for cover and say, well, we didn't do it, and we didn't do it, and we didn't do it. And then the juries are going to see that these people are not telling the truth. And when they're not telling the truth, the juries are more likely to assess damages. Because believe me, and I know because I read these Facebook posts, and I've lived through this myself, if you're a chronic pain patient, it's bad enough to trying to find a doctor that is not afraid to write you a prescription, but then when you do find that good doctor, and he or she is, you know, going to stand up for you, the pharmacies boycott the doctor and they won't fill their prescriptions. And so, you know, what we want is we want a $1 billion verdict against one of these, or more, against one of these pharmacy companies, just like in the tobacco legislation, where they can say, okay, we'll do the right thing. And then that will, like you said, that will bring all of this to the surface when finally the American public is going to realize that, you know, it is their health that's in the balance. It's not just a few thousand people. It's many, many, many millions of people.
And if you're in Ohio and you're listening, and if you were a patient of Dr. Bauer, if you call Dr. Bauer's office, the first thing you'll hear on his voicemail, if you are at a pharmacy and you cannot get your script filled, do A, B, or C. Now, can you imagine? You have to put that on your voicemail because in Ohio, they blackballed all of Dr. Bauer's scripts. You just couldn't get a script filled. So, Ohio, we need to hear from you. See Morandi1@cox.net. We have lawyers who are interested, and they're going to move quickly. But that's as we learn, we will share with you. Dr. Feldman, let's you and I talk about, because we're now partners in a nonprofit, the Doctor-Patient Collaborative. We're still working. We don't know if the word collaborative is going to be in there. Listeners, when you visit Don'tPunishPainRally.com, you're going to be linked to the nonprofit, the Doctor/Patient Collaborative. And Dr. Feldman, you and I discuss many times a day what our goals are for this nonprofit, because it has to be, people need us now. They need you now. Instant gratification. We have short-term goals, long-term goals. What do you see our nonprofit as?
Well, there's many things that need to be done. I mean, honestly, you and I know without saying it. This is such a, when I say this, the chronic pain patient and the chronic pain physician, the treating physician, we're sitting in the middle of a minefield that they've made for us. And yet, what I want to see is a clear path where a patient that has legitimate pain can see a doctor and be treated, and be treated honestly like a normal human being, not like a leper. And so, what do I see? I see education. This is going to be a place for education. I see this is going to be a center for legislation, and I'm going to see this is a place where grievances can be heard. When I say heard, that we can give advice on how people can get, better resolution of their problems. And so, is this, what I look at it, and this is not a dirty word. It's like the ACLU for pain patients. This is like the Southern Poverty Law Center for people with chronic pain. I see this as an organization in its infancy that will grow. So if you have chronic pain, you can find resources, and this is for both doctors, patients, and whoever wants to make use of this. That right now, none of the pain societies. First of all, many of the pain societies are gone, have disbanded because they took pharmaceutical money, which is honestly, was not necessarily a bad thing, but they were like embarrassed by it, so they disbanded. Many of them, like Dr. Webster, I think, have been the targets of lawsuits because of this. So what we want our organization to do is be a grassroots organization that provides support for chronic pain patients, whether it be treatment recommendations, finding a doctor, influencing legislation, lobbying in Washington, and maybe legal representation as well.
And what we're going to do, people are going to be able to visit the website, fill out a form, and myself or Dr. Feldman or both of us will be on the phone with you the following day. And we're going to work to find a resolution for you. And we're not practicing medicine, we're advocating as a team. And so many, we do this so many hours a day already, but with the nonprofit, we want to be able to send a letter out to a lawmaker or a doctor stating facts, because we want to educate the doctors. And the reason that these advocating services are so important, we need to get your doctor involved so we can support your doctor, because doctors want to know, what can we do? If I write this script, I'm going to get rated. I don't want to get involved. I want to bury my head in the sand. I'm too busy. But we want to be in touch with your doctor, and it may only be with a letter, but we want to leave the door open so this doctor can call another doctor or this doctor can call myself. And that's what the advocating process is all about. So that's a big part of the nonprofit. Another part of the nonprofit, Doctor, you mentioned uploading scans and offering other services. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, believe it or not, one of the simple tenets of medicine was, you should listen to a patient, hear what they have to say. In your mind, you formulate a hypothesis, what's wrong with this person, and we can't always find out what's wrong with the person, but you formulate a hypothesis, you order diagnostic studies, meaning first it was x-rays, then it was CT scans, then it was MRIs, and we use all of those things now. But, I find a lot of patients with chronic pain conditions have either not undergone proper diagnostic studies, or they have these diagnostic studies, sitting in their file cabinet, or they have them on a compact disc or a DVD, and nobody's explained to them, this is what I see as your problem. Nobody's taking the time. So what we want to be able to offer as a patient, look, this is what I see. This could be a solution, or this is a problem. And let me tell you something. Sometimes understanding what your problem is therapeutic in its own right. So we just want to be able to offer, a simple explanation. The patient then says, oh, now I understand why I'm having this problem, or why they recommended this treatment. So we can do this. I've seen it done before. It's really simple. I've looked at 100,000 MRI scans, and then the patient has a better understanding of what to do or what not to do, or a direction to go in. It's simple to do, and I think we're going to offer those kinds of services.
And we're also going to have Dr. Mark Ibsen with us as a medical contributor. We're going to have Randall Carter, a nurse anesthetist, retired, who's going to be a part of the organization, who really focuses so much on research, which is really important. We want to be able to travel to different states and, attend hearings and testify, offer opinions, offer solutions, meet with lawmakers, because this is all really important in bringing the plight of the pain patient to the forefront. And we want to have a presence in Washington, D.C., but everything takes money. We always have this conversation. It all takes money. And we want to have an attorney, on staff, but I want to have an attorney's presence, because we want to help other doctors that find themselves in situations like Dr. Smithers. A lot of pain patients believe that if you have medical malpractice, if you get caught in a situation with the DEA, your medical malpractice insurance covers that, but it doesn't cover that. It's, you have to pay.
The other thing that people don't understand is, and they really need to understand this, is that I suppose there was a time in history, probably it ended a long time ago, but where doctors had a modicum of control over the system in other words, doctors have to take responsibility for the patient today. If there's an untoward result, the doctor is held liable for it. Correct? Nobody would argue with that. But there was a time when doctors were in control of their destiny, and so if you're in control, then you have to take responsibility. But see, doctors are in control of nothing anymore. If you think about it, the CDC guidelines are basically what controls what the doctor can write, and then the DEA remember, guidelines and laws are not the same thing. And so they've misinterpreted these guidelines, which affected millions of people, and yet the doctors have no defense. And any doctor that's licensed will not testify on behalf of a doctor because they're afraid for their medical license. This has all got to come to the forefront. This has all got to change. Laws have to be enacted to protect physicians and to get the DEA back into fighting the war on illegal drugs and out of the practice of medicine.
And that's why it's so important to have, for lack of a better term, a doctor bank. a bank of doctors who are willing to help out their fellow colleagues. Something just came across my screen. Chilling report reveals how the DEA inflamed the opioid crisis. So now the attack is on the DEA. What's going to happen with this reduction that probably will go through in 2020? The DEA is reducing another cut in medication. Do we have enough?
God, I just shudder at this. I remember a few years ago there was like a fentanyl shortage. I'm talking about 5 years ago. And I had a surgery center, so I used fentanyl in the operating room. And all of a sudden I couldn't get any fentanyl. And I was like, well, let me tell you what happened. Number one, I had some friends that were, reps in companies, and they said, well, we know you and we'll get you fentanyl. The price went up by a factor of 10. So what was $10 was all of a sudden $100. Or what was $100 all of a sudden $1,000. Well, I got news for you. All of a sudden you had to pass those costs on to the patients, right? And they're like, well, why is this more expensive? Well, that's one thing. But number two, and this is even worse than that, you had to start using either what drugs that you thought were inferior or use nothing at all. Well, I got news for you. Opiates in the surgical setting are absolutely essential to the safe conduct of surgery. And so all of a sudden these drugs are going to become unavailable, and then we have to start saying, well, we'll use something else. Well, something else, what is the something else? I'm not even sure. And so an unintended consequence, or maybe an intended consequence of this, is to make surgery less safe for people. Well, this has got to stop. These people, meaning the DEA, like I said, their job is to fight illegal drugs, not to fight or not to practice medicine. And so this is something I guess we're going to have to just re-educate the Congress that the laws that, there are laws on the books, but the DEA does not have the authority to regulate the practice of medicine. So we're going to have to...
Congressional oversight hearing. We need that.
Yep.
We need a hearing before Congress, and that's something else the nonprofit will work on. We need a hearing into the DEA's blatant overreach. These cops are running rogue throughout the country, but remember, everybody has a boss. The DEA, all the agents have somebody that they have to respond to. And I'm not sure where the chief of the DEA, where he's getting his orders. But that's something else that the nonprofit will focus on. So we do look forward to the nonprofit, and the website should be live over the next few weeks. Just bear with us, folks. Hang in there. It's hard, but change is coming. And, we've got Dr. Ibsen. We have so many wonderful doctors involved in the cause right now. So, Dr. Feldman, where are you going? You said you're going to be in Memphis right around the time of the protest.
Yes, Linda and I have to be up in North Mississippi, not too far from Memphis, so I don't know if they're having a rally in Mississippi on this date, so we will find the closest one, wherever that is.
Yeah, we have to find. I think we're protesting at a VA in let me think here, Nashville or Memphis. I have to find out.
Okay. Well, we'll find out.
We'll find out. Do you remember how you heard about myself? Because I remember the day that you called me.
Honestly, I don't. But let me tell you something. I have lived with this problem of legitimizing the practice of chronic pain medicine or pain medicine in general for 35 years, and there was a woman who I don't think you ever met her years ago. She unfortunately passed away in a plane crash named Siobhan Reynolds. I mean, This girl was a dynamo. I spoke to her, but I never met her. She was a dynamo, and I think she had her husband that had chronic pain. And this girl really got things going, but remember, the internet was in its infancy. She didn't have, social media to use. And let me tell you something. They went after her like she was a rabid dog. And she withstood that and took it and testified in front of Congress. And she really was an important fuse for lighting the chronic pain movement. And she unfortunately, I said, died in a plane crash. And you kind of picked up that mantle. I don't know if you had ever heard of her, but I don't know how I heard of you, but I am a believer that we have 11,000 members in the group now. I think I read today.
That's right.
It just broke 11,000. It needs to be. We need it to be 100,000 soon.
Oh, sure.
And when we have 100,000 members, then we are a force. Right now we're just a bunch of complainers. 10,000 complainers, 11,000 complainers. But we need to be a force. I'll tell you a force. I grew up watching this. You know what a force is? Not that I agree with everything they do. The NRA is a force.
That's right.
Don't agree with everything. The AARP is a big force.
LBGT.
I remember when that organization started. Yeah,
Sure.
I mean, we need to be looked at as these people are not going away. And if we don't learn to deal with them, then we are going to have problems. That's what the politicians need to understand. We are not going away. We're not going away. And so that's where I see our non-for-profit. This is a seed for a Washington presence where, the Multiple Sclerosis Foundation, the American Heart Association, the AMA, I don't know. They have lost credibility over the years, but, we represent many millions of people, and we have to just, I look at it this way, Claudia, when we're old and gray, we can say, we started this movement and it's still there. That's right. That's what I want.
And to think that this started with only a few members, and a lot of people are sour on protesting because they get discouraged and they said, nobody shows up at the rally, but I don't care, because if I didn't believe, and I do a lot of media interviews, I say the same thing. If I didn't believe what was happening was cruel, was inhumane, I would not have put my face on this cause. What the DEA, what the CDC, what Andrew Kolodny, what PROP has done to the pain community is vile, disgusting behavior. We've only just begun. We're going to take back the power. We're going to make enemies. God knows I'm not a stranger to that. I don't care. And I tell people, and you know this, you're the same way. I'm like black licorice. You love me or you hate me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just
listen,
get out there.
I would love to be loved. But, if you love me and my wife loves me, that's enough.
Yeah. Well, folks, thank you for tuning in tonight. This is, you'll hear this show once it's released live on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because a lot of doctors find me that way. And I know you're not a fan of social media, but if you can, join the Facebook page, Don't Punish Pain Rally, then make your way over to your state page, take a look around, take a look at the commercial, purchase a T-shirt, take a look at some sign ideas. It's not too late to find a venue. You can protest outside of a Walgreens, a Rite Aid, a VA. You can have a meet and greet. You can go to your library. You can go to your state's capital. If you want to do something on your own, let me know. I will help you promote it. Do not give up. I promise you, we will prevail. If you see somebody struggling on Twitter, if you see somebody super sad on Facebook, on Instagram, reach out to that person, because compassion is free, and message them. Say, you seem down in the dumps. What can I do to help you? How about you call me? Let's have a phone conversation. Sometimes just that phone conversation can bring a person out of their depression. I am not a doctor. I am not a nurse. I'm not a social worker. I'm somebody with Crohn's disease who had an idea. And most importantly, remember, I get my strength from your strength. I'll see you on October 16th. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for the DPPRally Talk Show. Subscribe to our channel at DPPRally Talk Show with Claudia on YouTube. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.
We are sorry, but the show has ended. Goodbye.